Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, this is Redberry Leo here, and welcome back to another Civil Air Patrol video. In today's video, I wanted to briefly give an overview of NCSAs, or National Cadet Special Activities. I'm not going in depth on specific ones, and I might do specific videos on those in the future. I have talked about them in my individual interviews with people from across the country in Civil Air Patrol, so you could always check out one or two of those up here. But I'm going to give an overview of some of the requirements in order to attend, and just some general information that you should know about them in like the application process and some of my experience with NCSAs. So an NCSA is an activity that you can attend. Sometimes it's within the US, sometimes you can go abroad, like for the IACE program, the International Air Cadet Exchange, and it is something that you can attend once you have completed at least one encampment. At this point, you are not allowed to attend an NCSA unless you have completed encampment already. So if you were not able to attend encampment this past summer, like the summer of 2020, and you wanted to do an NCSA for summer of 2021, at this point, you can't. There isn't like a waiver at this point. So unfortunately, you will not be able to attend an NCSA if you were going to attend encampment this past summer and attend an NCSA this upcoming summer. So if you have an encampment under your belt, like a winter encampment or a spring encampment, then you can apply for NCSAs once you have completed those requirements. So NCSAs happen throughout the year, and I will include a link down in the description of the different dates for them, and they're held all over the place. So that's just something to keep in mind. Sometimes there will be, like, for example, the flight academies, there's glider academies, and there's powered academies, like in a Cessna, where you train in a 172 most likely. And those are held by the region, like within each region. So you can find a different glider school in those regions. And typically you have to be 14 years old or older in order to attend those glider academies. Other activities, the general minimum age is 16, with the exception of a few of them, like the glider academies, you have to be 14 or older. I think the National Cyber Academy is age 15. Let me check that one. I will check right here on my list. SUPTFC, or the Specialized Undergraduate Pilot Training, is 15. And the Cyber Academy is 14. But most of them, generally speaking, are 16. Minimum age for IACE is 17. So that's something to keep in mind when you are applying for them. They're also, like, since they're all over in terms of the calendar months and, like, the dates, that can also impact when you decide to do it, because, like, let's say your family's going on a trip, and currently it's held in July, and your family trip is during July, then you might not be able to attend. But there's also the chance that it might be held at a different time window in a different region, so that's just something to look for. Some of them aren't offered multiple times in the summer, so it just depends on which one you're looking at. Also, there are some costs associated with attending NCSAs. They're generally around $800. Some of them are less, like COS, the Cadet Officer School, is $375 in order to attend, and like all of them are roughly a week. Sometimes they're 2 weeks. It just depends on the activity. So make sure you are aware of how long it's going to be and how much it costs in order to attend the activity. There is some financial assistance. Like, I will mention this in another video coming up soon. Like scholarships, there are scholarships. And so if you need financial assistance in order to attend activities, you can always apply for scholarships and try to get into those. Or if, like, you're going for your private pilot's license, I'll talk about that in the scholarships video, but just talking about NCSAs, there is financial assistance available for encampments in addition to attending NCSAs if you don't have the financial means to attend them. Something special about this particular year with NCSAs is that some of them aren't currently scheduled. So I recommend, me personally, I recommend that you complete most of the requirements for your application for the NCSAs that you're interested in attending, because you can attend more than one. You can apply for more than one, and you can attend more than one if you get selected. If you see one that is currently not scheduled, you should still put your application together, and then if they decide the date and it doesn't work for you, you can always retract your application or just like not fully submitted for that NCSA. But I do recommend holding off until about 5 days before you actually like submit it into the system, just to see if they have finalized the dates. Because I don't know when some of them are going to happen. Like there's the SUPTFC happening in Texas, which isn't scheduled yet. And it looks like they haven't scheduled the Space Command familiarization course either. And one of them happens in Peterson, or at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado, and one of them happens at Patrick Air Force Base in Florida. So some of them aren't even scheduled yet. So for all you know, you might be available for one of them if you haven't seen any that you might be compatible with. So if you attend an NCSA, there is a magical NCSA ribbon that you can get. And sometimes different NCSAs have different ribbons. Most of them you get the same ribbon, and you wear a clasp on it depending on the number of NCSAs you have attended. Something that I've been asked in the past is, how does the slotting process for NCSAs work? And in the link that I have included down below, it actually answers what the process is for slotting. So I'll read it off here. If it depends on your age, what milestone you have accomplished, how many NCSAs you have attended, and how long you've been in the program. So the older you are, the higher up in the program you are, the longer you've been in, and the fewer NCSAs you have attended, the greater the number of points you receive in your application. And there's also something called a green light process, which it varies between wings, I believe. But if you are green lighted by your wing, in saying like, yes, this cadet is good to go, then you are added an additional 100 points to your application, which makes you even more competitive. With some activities, you may be asked to complete a questionnaire or complete an interview, maybe even write an essay. And in those instances, there are some subjective values that are added, and that can affect your points as well. So for me, I got to attend 2 different NCSAs. I got to attend SUPTFC and IACE. With SUPTFC, I was selected through the older process, so the new process that currently is in place was not there yet. That was an interesting process. And basically, I went to Mississippi, and we did emergency procedures for their training aircraft. We did stuff with like the plunger stick. You put it on the floor and you have the cockpit in front of you, and then you do all of the procedures like green ring pull, all that kind of fun stuff. And it was a very rigorous course that I participated in, because we were using expo markers on the windows and on the mirrors when we were writing everything down, trying to memorize it all. I even made little flashcards. Like, I took index cards and I folded them into fourths, and then I wrote, like, one thing on one side, and then all of, like, the emergency on the one side of the card, and then each of the steps for the procedures that you're supposed to follow on the other side, and so I would use those to study. Lots of fun. Kept me very busy. Had some late nights, but it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. So if you're interested in being a pilot, please feel free to go to that one. That one's a great experience, and you actually get to interact with pilots at whatever base you go to. So I do highly recommend that experience if you want to be a military pilot. There's also the flight academies that are good for getting you to solo. Like, in most cases, not all of them, you could potentially solo by the end if you've got the knowledge down and you've got the flying part down. So it depends on what your instructor thinks, but most people, a lot of people, do solo during their flight academies. And then the other one that I did was IACE, and that process was using the new system, so I got to experience the new system. And because I was pretty old in the program at the time, I had been in for a long time, I was very high in grade, and I hadn't attended very many NCSAs. I was like the perfect candidate to attend. And so I was selected as one of 2 slots to go to the Belgium exchange. And so 2 Americans went over to Belgium, and 2 Belgians came over to the US, and we got to spend 2 weeks there. It was a lot of fun. We got to fly gliders. We went to host families, so I got to actually see their like Independence Day parade, which was really cool. Got to eat some very fresh waffles. It was a wonderful experience. Made a few very good friends. So that was an awesome activity to get to experience what other cultures are like, in addition to just like meeting cadets from across the world, because like some of them had a very competitive process to get in, and like Civil Air Patrol's process is pretty competitive, and IACE is like, I would say, the most competitive one because of how few slots there are and how many people actually want to do it. But Belgium was not my first choice country, to be honest. I kind of wanted to go to Australia, but when I was talking to the activity director, she was like, yeah, I picked you and the other cadet because you two seem the most mature, and I trusted you two to go off into the other country and really represent the US very well, because we didn't have a senior member escort. It was like the first time in either a really long time or ever for the program where there was not a senior member escort. It was just us two cadets, which was very flattering. I very much appreciated that. It was very cool. So I just really enjoyed getting the opportunity to do it, and I was honored to be selected for the activity. So I hope if you get the chance to do it and COVID isn't as crazy as it currently is. I feel really bad for people who couldn't go this past year. Felt so bad about that. But it's a phenomenal activity that you really should attend if you can. So I'm going to leave things here. If you do have any questions for me about, like, generally with NCSAs or specifics about NCSAs, I can always try to get you an answer. So please feel free to let me know what your comments are down below. Thank you so much for watching, and that is all, folks. Until next time, toodles.